Hi there, I'm Grace from Raspberries and Soda. I'm really excited that you're joining me here today. I can't wait to share my knowledge with you and teach you some techniques and some tips that will help you to maintain and repair your wardrobe, keeping it in tip-top shape so that it will serve you for many years to come. Let's jump in. Okay, so today I'm going to show you how to fix an invisible hem by hand. So as you can see here, you can't see any stitches on the outside of the trouser, and you can't really see any on the inside unless you're looking. So hopefully you can see there's a little cross stitch in there, but it's hidden on the inside, so it's not going to catch. And often you'll find that the stitches that come on a trouser or a skirt with an invisible hem will catch and come undone, so this is a great way to fix it. I currently do all my invisible hems by hand, as I don't have the machine that does it, but I know it's really secure when you do it by hand. So I've already pinned up this trouser. I've cut it and overlocked the edge and pinned it up to the correct length, which I always do 6 centimeters inside to allow for if the hem ever needs to be dropped. So what I do is I measure the 2 side seams first, and then I pull it firm and measure that, lining up the crease lines. So then I grab my matching thread, a nice little hand sewing needle, not too long, not too short, not too thick, just a good size that you can hold easily. Then I get a decent length of thread, but not too long. If it's too long, it will knot up, and then you'll have to cut it off and start again. So a good length is usually from your hand up to your shoulder. For me, I do a little bit longer because I have really short arms. So then you just knot off the bottom end. Two knots, one on top of the other. Make sure it's nice and firm, and then trim that little excess tail, making sure I pop that in the bin. So find the inside leg, follow that seam down. That's where you're going to start, is your inside leg seam. So keep the trousers right side out, but just turn your hem inside out. So this is the side I'm starting on. So I want to hold it so that the hem's on the outside, so that I can access this little edge here, the inner edge of the overlocking. So then I always start on this inner edge, and then I go through that inner edge a couple of times just to make sure that the thread is caught. Now it's important when you do these stitches that you don't make them too long, because you don't want to be able to get a toe caught in when you're putting the trousers or the skirt on. So now, because this is the seam allowance, I can do a slightly bigger stitch to secure it in place. So working right to left, bring this in, and then I come across. Again, we're working this way round the trouser, but we're stitching this in a looping fashion. So then I go in this way, and I do about a 6 mil stitch, but you don't have to measure it to be exact, so long as it's quite consistent. And as I said, not too big, but don't make it so small that you'll be stitching here for 100 years. When it comes to picking up the part of the trouser, you just want to pick up 1 or 2 tiny threads. That's the way to make it invisible on the outside. So this is the outside of the trouser, that's the inside allowance. And then again, we cross over this way. So we're stitching right to left and going clockwise. So again, picking up 1 small thread, and then a bigger stitch, 6 mils to, I wouldn't do more than 1 centimetre wide for that stitch there, and then this is literally picking up 1 or 2 threads. So now I'm coming back to the other side seam. So this is the side I started on. This is the side seam. Sorry, I'll zoom out for you. This is the side seam here that I'm coming round to. So just again picking up that small stitch on that edge and doing a stitch here. Now again, you can pick up a slightly larger amount on the seam allowance just to make it extra secure. Often if it's quite a wide leg, which this one isn't, then I like to do a couple of like holding stitches over each other on the side seam, but because it's a narrower leg, then I just do bigger stitches on the seam allowance just to give it that extra support, and then going back to exactly how we were stitching before. Take the pins out as you go. It makes it easier and less likely for you to catch the thread on the heads of the pins. So I'll come slow here again for you so that you can see closely what I'm doing. I'll try and bring my thread up so that you can see what I'm doing here. Yeah, we'll do this. There. It's better for you to see. So again, picking up the teeniest, tiniest thread on that one, and then doing about a 6 mil pickup on the hem allowance. So as you can see on the outside here, you can only just see the stitch lines if you look carefully, and that's underneath, not on top of that. That should stop it being caught by your feet as you get dressed. Now if you run out of thread partway round, just knot it off on this edge. Go through a couple of times, tie a knot, and then start a new thread on this side. Put your knot here, come through, do a loop, and then start off your zigzagging invisible stitch again, your blind hem stitch. So you can see I'm catching on this pin here. So just unhook it. Now I fold this edge down so it's either just in line with the bottom of the overlocking or about halfway. Whatever I do, I keep it consistent all the way through to make sure that that hem sits the same all the way through. And it depends on the weight of the fabric as well. I want to make sure that I am stitching into where the overlocking is, not underneath. and not too close to the edge either. As I said, this is a great stitch for repairing if a hem has started to come undone. You can catch the run with the loop. I'll zoom back out again so you can get an overview and don't miss too much of what I'm doing. So yes, excellent as just as a blind hem stitch for repairing hems that have come down on work uniforms, school uniforms, suit pants. It's also great if you have, say, a jacket with a lining to hold the inside allowance in place. You can do an invisible blind hem stitch on the inside of the jacket sleeve to hold that hemline nice and crisp and stop it from sliding down as you wear it. Yeah, that's probably its main applications. Hems and holding internal linings. But you could potentially use it as a decorative stitch on something. You would just pick up the same amount each side if you wanted to use it as a decorative stitch rather than a construction stitch. Making sure I'm not picking up too much on the outside of the trouser. Okay, we're back to the beginning. Making sure I loop around, especially this part here where the seam is. I want to loop both sides of that so it doesn't split. Even though it is overlocked, for me it's just an extra security measure to make sure that it stays exactly how it should. So we knot off the end. I just hold this out, put my needle underneath, pull through, and then I use my thumb to hold it down to make sure that that knot is really nice and close to the fabric. Let me zoom in and show you that again. So hold that thread out, needle underneath, pulling it so it's nice and firm, thumb on top and pull tight. Then we can just get our little scissors or snips and cut it quite close. So then when we turn it out, you can see there's no visible stitches on the outside. You might see little like indents where the pickups are, but once I give this a press, it'll be nice and crisp and you won't have those lines. It's important when pressing suit pants or fabric like this that you do use a pressing cloth so you don't get this line coming through to the other side. And that is how you do a blind hem stitch. So there you can see I've given it a good press and you can't see those little pull marks anymore, and that's how you want it to look. Nice, clean, crisp, no indents. So don't pull too hard when you're pulling the needle through. Nice gentle stitches, just firm enough that the stitch isn't loose and hanging out the side. Practice makes progress. You guys will get there.